Hey y'all, and welcome back to the Ingrain Workshop. I'm Rick, and today you can probably tell that we are not at the Ingrain Workshop. We're actually on a road trip. We are at Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, which is about 5 to 10 minutes from the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. We own a couple of investment rental properties up here. This is one of them. We are staying here at White Oaks Cabin in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and today we're going to be building a sliding barn door for our laundry room closet. So let's get started. Okay, so as you can see, this is our existing laundry room closet, and we basically just have a shower curtain rod and a drape that pretty much just covers up the opening. And this is where we're going to be installing our sliding barn door, and it should be 100% improvement over the existing shower rod and curtain. Now I'm going to start the installation of the barn door track. I'm going to install it before building the barn door. And once I get the track installed, I'll go back and construct the actual barn door. The first thing I had to do was locate the studs above the door or the door opening. I just used a stud finder to just run it down the wall so I could find the studs. Once I located the studs, I just used some painter's tape just to mark the location. That way I didn't have to mark up the walls, and I could just go down the door opening, identifying the stud locations, and then just marking them with painter's tape. The track manufacturer recommended installing the track an inch and 11/16 more than your door height. My door height was going to be 84 inches, so I just added 1 and 11/16 to the 84 inches, set up my laser level, and then that's the level that the track is going to actually be installed. The lag bolts for the track, I believe, are 3/8 inch in diameter. So I'm just going to go down here with a 1/4 inch bit and just pre-drill the holes at all the lag bolt locations. This was a 6-foot long track, and I think there might have been 6 different hole locations in the track. So I made sure I tried to line those up with the studs, and they did pretty much line up perfectly. And then I can just go down here and pre-drill my 1/4 inch holes for my 3/8 inch lag bolt. With the holes pre-drilled, I can now start installing the track and then installing the 3/8 inch lag bolts. Because I'm not, at my shop in Tampa, I had to basically use whatever I had here at the cabin, and all I had was a pipe wrench. So I just used the pipe wrench to tighten up the lag bolts. It would have been nice to have had a socket set, and I think later during the project, I did go out and get a cheap socket set. But at this point, all I had was the pipe wrench, but the pipe wrench did the job, and I just used the pipe wrench to tighten down all the lag bolts. I was being very cautious to take my time and not scrape or scuff up the paint that's on the track. Now it's time to start building the door. I'm using just some tongue and groove knotty pine that I got at the big box store. I'm measuring down 84 inches or 7 feet because that's going to be the height of the door. And I'm going to measure each plank and then cut them off at that length. And I'm also using the flush side of the tongue and groove. There's a bead groove on the back side of this, but I'm not going to use that, and I'm going to make that the inside of the door, which won't be seen. I took my speed square and my circular saw, and I'm just going to use this to cut a straight line at the 84 inch mark that I had made on the plank, and that will give me the correct height for the door. And then I'll just repeat this process for the next 6 planks. With the first plank cut to length, now I need to cut it to width. So this being the first plank in the door, I just need a flush side. So what I'm going to do is just rip off the tongue on this benchtop table saw, just using a piece of wood and a couple of clamps for a fence. And then once I get the tongue ripped off, then that will start the first plank of the door. With the tongue cut off of the first plank, we can start installing all the subsequent planks, and it's a pretty simple installation. It's just tongue and groove. I think the doors are, they're going to be 2 doors, 36 inches wide, and I think it took 6 planks to make up each individual door. But as you can see here, it's simply just inserting the tongue into the groove of the previous plank and then just repeating this process. Just like I did for the first plank, the last plank of the door, you've got to come in and trim off in this case, I'm going to be trimming off the groove side of the plank instead of the tongue side of the plank. That way I've got a flush side to the last plank on the door. With all the 6-inch planks now installed for the width of the door, I'm going to now start ripping down some of the planks that will make up the rail and the stiles of the door. I'm going to take and rip the tongue off the plank and then rip them down to 4 inches. Like I said, these are 6-inch planks, but my stiles and rails are going to be 4 inches wide. So I'm just going to rip off both the tongue and the groove and rip these down to 4 inches, so then I can take and cut them to size to make up the stiles and the rails of the door. With the rails cut and in place on the sides of the doors, and with the stiles installed at the top and bottom, I went ahead and installed a middle trim piece that basically cuts the door in half, and now I'm cutting the diagonal pieces that give it the barn door look or the barn door style. And how I'm fastening these is I'm just flipping the door onto its back and then screwing from the back side of the door, so you don't have any screws visible here on the front of the door. To get the length and the angle for the diagonal pieces, I just cut some boards a little long and then just laid them in place, and then went ahead and just made the markings on the board that I'm going to cut for the diagonal. That way I know all my cuts as far as the length and the angles are all going to be correct. With the diagonals now cut to fit, I'm going to just take and dry fit the diagonals inside the door, and then I'll take and flip the door up and then just start screwing the diagonals from the back side of the door. And like I had mentioned earlier, all your screw holes or all your screws are going to be on the back of the door, so it really won't be visible at all. And as you can see on the back of the door, you can see the bead molding or the bead groove that's on the back side of the doors, and I just thought aesthetically the door would look better. Alright, so now let's get started on the second door. So here's one of the completed doors unstained, and then there's the other door that has been stained. This has got the first coat of stain, which I think was a classic oak, and then Z's going to go back, stain the new door with the classic oak, and then she's going to put another dark, I think a dark walnut stain on top of this. This was a polyacrylic stain, so it has both the stain and the poly. It was our first time using this, and I did sand down the doors with 220 grit sandpaper with an orbital sander between coats, and then I did sand the last coat just to give it that distressed look. Before we put the second coat of stain on, I'm going to come through here and drill out the holes for the door supports or the door hangers. These are going to go 2 inches from the corner, which will put it in the dead center of the rail. And I believe the manufacturer required it to be 1 3/4 inches down from the top. And then the second hole I just lined up with the physical hanger itself. And then once I got the locations marked out, I just took my drill, I think it was maybe a 5/8 inch bit, and drilled for the bolts that are going to hold the hangers to the door. With the final coat of stain installed on the door, I can start installing the door hangers. And again, this was just a bolt, a washer, and then a acorn nut that goes on the outside, and then you just tighten it down. It's a pretty simple installation. Once the holes are drilled, it's just a matter of feeding the bolts through the back side and then tightening down the acorn nuts on the front of the door. And the hangers, for the most part, are installed, and the doors are pretty much prepped and ready to install on the door track, which is another very simple process. So before I installed the doors, you can probably see there are door handles on each door. I did go and install those. And then also at the top of the track, there's a stop that comes with the track, and that just keeps the door from rolling completely off the track. And they have Allen keys, so you can adjust exactly where you want the stops. And then also down at the bottom of the door, there's an actual door track and the door track is just it just keeps the doors aligned with each other, and it also helps the doors position themselves so they can slide past one another. And those are the door guides there at the bottom of the door. And that's pretty much it. It was a very simple build. It was something that was done in a day and done with some pretty primitive tools. I think this is something that anybody could achieve and do on a weekend. Well, that's going to wrap up this video on how to build a barn door. I hope this video helps you out in your project, and if it did, please leave it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll leave a link in the video description below to all the tools and equipment that I used in this video. And as you could see, we did this build here at White Oaks Cabin, not at the Ingrain Workshop where we're normally at, and our tools up here were limited. I basically built the entire barn door out of just a circular saw and a benchtop table saw. Without a fence, and that was basically it. I mean, I did use other tools, but they were minor tools that you probably have in your garage or workshop. So it's definitely a project that's doable for everybody, I think, and I think you'll enjoy and get some satisfaction out of doing it. As always, get out there and create, build, and inspire. And if anyone's interested in renting one of our cabins up here in the beautiful Smoky Mountains, I'll leave Airbnb links in the video description below. To where you can go view the cabins, view the calendars and the availability and the pricing. And if you mention that you saw the ad on the YouTube channel, I'll give you an automatic 10% off your nightly fee. This is Rick with the Ingrain Workshop, signing out. We'll see you next time, and have a wonderful day.